Welcome to another edition of Dan Factoids, in which we address some of the hard-hitting questions that divers sometimes have and would like answers to quite quickly. In this case, it's a question about diving and medication. This particular diver says that they have been prescribed a calming agent, and so-called benzodiazepine and urbanol for anxiety, which they have not taken when diving, and they've been wondering whether or not this is a good idea and whether or not they should dive on it. Well, there are a couple of things when it comes to medication and diving. We always think about it in terms of the condition, the medication, and the dive. Now, when it comes to the medication here, whether it's an anxiolytic, which is the word we use for things that are used to treat anxiety, or an antidepressant, one needs to consider the sedating effects of the medication, particularly if you're doing deeper dives and you're diving to the depths where you could have nitrogen narcosis, which could be significantly compounded as a result of the medication. Remember, we even recommend that people shouldn't use antihistamines or antiemetics for motion sickness that cause drowsiness. So if we're already concerned about that, needless to say, medication that calms you down is likely to make you drowsy and be a potential concern, or perhaps make you less attentive on your dive gauges and other aspects of diving. So pretty much anything where it says don't take this medication while operating dangerous machinery or while driving also translates to diving. So that's just as a general rule. Then the second aspect is the condition. So we've got the medication, then the condition. The condition of anxiety may mean a number of things. It may be a social phobia. It may be work-related. It may be very situational. It may be related to panic attacks that could be completely random. Well, each of these would require a different answer. If it is something that is very predictable and very circumstantial, in other words, it's only in particular circumstances that anxiety happens that are completely unrelated to diving, well, then that's probably fine that you don't dive on while taking the medication, because the anxiety has nothing to do with being in water. If, however, there's a carryover, in other words, there is a bit of a trait or a bit of a tendency to be anxious, well, then diving may, in fact, not really be a very good idea. So that's something to consider as well, and the same might be true for depression. Some people find, who have depression, that diving is the best tonic for them, and in fact that they really feel their best when they're diving. On the flip side, of course, there's always the concern that diving might be a rather unfortunate way for someone to commit suicide, and that is always at the back of a diving doctor's mind when it comes to antidepressants and diving. And lastly, as I mentioned, is the dive itself. And there I would say, bearing in mind now the anxiolytic or antidepressant or whatever medication is involved, whatever dive you choose should not provoke or should not aggravate the underlying condition. So if there is mild anxiety as a result of diving, then don't do dives that will cause any anxiety. You can volunteer at aquaria and you would be able to dive in the pool and clean the pool, and that is a hyper safe and very well monitored environment. So there are ways to dive and really get a very good diving experience without exposing yourself to what could be a very uncontrolled and possibly terrifying environment. So be sensible. Remember those three then: the medication, the condition, and diving. And one needs to weigh those three things up before making the final decision. I hope that's been helpful, and until next time, safe diving.